Well, hello. Got to get the big dramatic business there. My name is HollisWebb, and we are live from the studio, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh, what is going on? I got to fix things. So, folks, when if any of you are all tuning in before the show starts, you may notice that there is some music playing. I've been playing the new recordings that I've been working on, and hopefully y'all enjoyed some of those. And those should be released some point soon. But I like to listen to it, and so then I have to whenever we. Anyway, long story short, this is a entirely professional production, and it's only me running the show, y'all. Y'all, we have a great show tonight. I just want to tell you. So the name of the show is All Your Music Are Belong to Us. And this is a show about video game music. And we also have a new thing that we have in the show that isn't quite worked out is we've got sound effects. Isn't that nice? So, we can say some things and do some things, make kind of up the professionalism here. Our special guest tonight is Mr. Cody Pruitt, who is going to come and take me to school about video game music. And I am really excited. I kind of put out a call on the Facebook about it, and there was quite a response. A lot of you folks are really, really into video game music, so I hope that you all are watching, and I believe I picked a really good person to talk to us about video game music. I picked a recovering teacher, and that's what I need because I kind of dropped off out of the video game scene, and I didn't know what was out there. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot going on out there. So I'm going to turn on the comments here, see who all is joining us. If you've got a drink, go ahead and have the drink. You might notice me taking my drink. It is Friday, y'all. And let me just say that I feel like things have kind of turned a corner, right? Like, they're saying they're going to open up the vaccines to everyone, and that's great. And so I feel really good about that, and I want you to know if you are oh man, make sure you created a Facebook event. I don't think that I'm going to get comments here. I'm just going to watch them here. That's a bummer. That is a bummer. Sorry to interrupt my train of thought. I was so happy about the possibility of the vaccine, the stimulus bill passing. I know that's going to help out a lot of folks. So yeah. So why don't we just get into it? Play a little bit of music. I think I'm flying blind here, which is unfortunate. It looks like I had to have created a Facebook event, which is a bummer. To look at the comments here. So things change. We never know what's going on. But maybe I can look at I gotta know what you all are saying about me. I can't just let this go, Okay. Well, Cody Pruitt liked it, which is a bummer. There we go. Orlando Diaz Garcia says the new stuff sounds great. And Cody Pruitt says, I've never seen that pick. Amazing. Cody, I presume you are talking about the one of you sitting at your pedal steel, which is cool. I turned 40 recently. this past November, and for my 40th birthday, clearly we couldn't do anything, crazy and outside or whatever, out in public, and so I had my best bros come to my house and have a best bros sleepover, and I required that they all bring their instruments, and they had to play all of my requests and had to sit there awkwardly when I got drunk and cried, and it was just a really great time, and I loved it. And Cody was there, so okay, so let's do this. It'll turn out how it turns out. Woo! And you get the wrong notes for free, y'all. You know, if we're doing a little show about video game music, we have to play video game music, even if we play it badly. So that was that. Cheers to you. First song, got it out of the way. Just gotta throw that. It's like a mulligan in golf. Clint Buck says, "Yeah, best bros sleepover and cry was the best." I don't know if it was the best, but for you guys, but it was the best for me. I made brisket. I smoked brisket. All right, let's get back into it. So I just want to let you know that this esteemed professional production that you see behind you, it's not free. It takes some shekels to produce and get going. So if you have any inclination, you hear something that you like, feel free to drop us a couple of bucks, a buck or two. It's just it'll get better. I promise you. I want to say also, I'm getting some heavy hitters as guests. On March 26th, we will have, I'm just going to take this off here so you guys don't have to look at that. March 26th, we have Daniel Markham will be calling into the show, or signing on to the show, whatever it is in this new weird world that we're in. And he's going to be talking about being prolific as an artist. And I think, and we'll talk about it then, but I think that's different from being creative. And I know Cody's probably watching right now, and he's like, oh, I want to talk about that too, because Cody knows lots of things and can talk about lots of things. He's so interesting, and I can't wait to talk to him. But Daniel Markham is always releasing stuff. It's always good, and I'm really happy to be chatting with him on March 26th. So you guys follow the HollisWebb and the Sleuth Facebook page to get the notification for that, and we'll get you going. All right, let's do a real song. How about that? Okay. Can y'all hear everything okay? Yeah? Why I'm asking. I don't have the real-time feedback of comments. I could just stay with you, I'll miss the plane. If you and I were we again, I'll phone home to say that I'm not coming back. And maybe my mother will cry hard. I'll tell her that I'll be fine, Mom, and tell Dad that I love him dearly as well. You see, I met this girl, she's nice and pretty too. Her name's blonde, her eyes are ocean blue, and I can't seem to pull myself away. 'Cause I don't want to leave. I'm poor, I don't have my degree. I had a job, perhaps at KFC. I learned the finer points, Colonel Sanders' secret recipe. So darling dear, may I sleep on your floor for a night, a week, or maybe more? Half of the night when you go with your friends, with all your Irish friends. Darling, home about 10:30. After the night we go to the club with all your Irish friends. 'Cause I got distracted. I got distracted because I saw Cody Pruitt's comment. He says, "Deep cut." That's right. And then I completely forgot the lyrics. You just take for granted sometimes that you write a song, and I'm weak on lyrics anyway, but you take for granted sometimes that you're just going to always remember the lyrics to your own songs, I think. So, it is what it is. You get what you pay for on this show. So, like I said, all the wrong words and the mistakes and the wrong notes are free. So, I'm getting notifications, and I'm sorry, I don't quite know how to turn that off in the thick of things. So that just might be something we have to live with. So sorry about that. Clint Buck says, "Sounds good over here." Orlando Diaz Garcia says, "Sounds good." All right, good. So, you folks that are on Facebook, which is, I guess, all of you that are watching right now, may have seen that I did a little song from the beach. I went to the beach, Port Aransas, this past weekend, and had a great old time with the family. I love going to the beach during the off season. Nobody was there. It was super social distancing. It was great, man. And I did a little recording at the beach, and man, it was bad. The wind was blowing like 1,000 miles an hour, and you could barely hear anything. And I trudged my little guitar out there, got sand and every little thing, and did that. But you got to do that, right? You got to play. That's what I want to do. I want to play in unusual places and make recordings and that kind of thing, and do it for you, for those of you that are still stuck at home. But we're almost there. So also, another thing that I wanted to add is now that we're kind of turning the corner on this, if you are someone out there that is responsible for a venue or knows someone who's responsible for a venue, and you'd like to book this guy either to do a musical performance or to do this show, then I'd love to have you. I'd love to talk to you. So reach out to me on Facebook. I know you're out there, and I'd love to talk to you because I think we're gonna be in venues again and doing stuff and playing music, and that's really what I want to do. And this stuff is a lot of fun, but there's nothing like going out and hearing some live music, and there's nothing like going out and playing some live music. So that's what we're gearing up for. So we are. I think the time frame that I'm looking at is summer. That's when we're going to be booking shows, and I'm going to get Clint and Justin and the whole gang, try to get the whole gang back and, playing some music. Orlando says, unusual places like a nightclub. Yeah, that is unusual these days. Lando, you definitely need to be a guest on this show. This show is suffering without your input, so I'm definitely going to get you going there. Okay, I think we have time for probably one more song, and then I'm going to send out the call to Mr. Cody Pruitt, and we're going to get on that. And you guys are in for a treat, let me tell you. So let's do another song. Cody said deep cut earlier because I played a song that he played with me. He's played with me before when we were in college. We went to college together at old Austin College, and he played in my band. Oddly enough, Cody, I got to rip into you for a second because you didn't mention playing with me in your bio. Like that was like a nothing experience. So on this show we don't pull any punches. So I'm gonna be asking you the hard hitting questions about why you're ashamed about playing in the band with me. So this is going to be like a Tucker Carlson moment. I'm not going to hold back. I forgot my bow tie, but I'll be interrupting you, and it's going to be awful for you. So just if you don't respond to the link, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I would be afraid of me as well. So another deep cut. Well, I slipped into your bedroom just to reach the promised land. I didn't mean to scare you, I just wanna be your man. Girl, I'd do the hokey pokey if I thought that I could stand. 'Cause I'm drunk enough to dance, and I just wanna hold your hand. Put your left foot in, put your left foot out, put your left foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Well, I'm standing by your window, and I'm crying out your name. The neighbors started yelling, now they're calling me insane. Well, I guess I'll say I'm sorry, 'cause there's no one else to blame. Your mother never liked me, and your sister thinks I'm lame. Put your right arm in, put your right arm out, put your right arm in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Well, I'm heading down to Austin, got that job at KFC. I'll be the best damn chicken fryer with my liberal arts degree. And I'll do the hokey pokey, and I'll drink my herbal tea. Just think of what you're missing, there's no other quite like me. Put your whole self in, put your whole self out, put your whole self in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. I put my whole heart in, I rip my whole heart out. I put my whole heart in, you shook it all about. Dance a hokey pokey, you turn my life around. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. All right. Another deep cut. You know, in my opinion, it's Cody Pruitt night. And these are all songs dedicated to Cody Pruitt. And because I'm so excited about having him going on here. Sarah Sebascu, Dr. Sarah, good to have you. Good to have you. This is great. Everybody's showing up. This is great. I'm probably getting some delay here, so just keep watching. You know, if I don't respond to your comment. Okay, So I'm gonna just turn down, maybe not turn down, right? Because we're gonna be talking and doing some dialogue. And I think now is about the time that we are going to send out the link to Master Cody and hope that he joins us. Here we go. And dip. Okay. Mr. Cody. Whoa. Nope. Okay. Mr. Cody Pruitt. And dip. There we go. We'll wait with bated breath. And I'm going to get my stuff ready for Cody, because when it's time, it's time. And I know that he is bringing it. And this is going to be great. So, like I was saying, Cody and I went to college together, and Cody is a great guitarist and a great songwriter, just among a million other things. Just a great guy, really funny, and I just love that guy. And I remember, I have a distinct memory, and we'll talk about this, like the summer after I graduated, he was playing Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time in the duplex, which was a house that was not a great house, but a good house on the edge of campus at Austin College. And I think there was an incident that he almost choked on Laffy Taffy, which is not a laughing matter, ladies and gentlemen. So I just want to remind everybody about that. So it looks like we're all queued up for this. I do want to introduce my guest. His name is Cody Pruitt. He is a recovering high school teacher and longtime haunter of Texas dive bars from the stage and the crowd in turns. As a multi-instrumentalist, Pruitt has supported bands and musicians around Austin, including Union Pacific and the Dead Right, and sometimes Hollis and the Mighty McGregor, but we're ashamed of that. Let's see. His ever-evolving, rarely performing solo act, Uncle Howard's Radio Hour, will release its debut album, About Time and Sometimes Space, eventually. So I am very super duper pleased to present Mr. Cody Pruitt.
Whoa.
Cody.
Hollis.
Cody.
The applause are amazing. Can you hear me?
Man, it's so good to see your beautiful face, dude. And you are, might I say, you are framed perfectly. Cody, so I've been learning a lot about this live streaming thing, and every time it gets better, and I'm a little bit more prepared. And so now I've been doing this thing where I've been asking everybody that comes on with me to the night before, like, we do kind of a test run and just make sure that sounds and everything are okay. And Cody wins the award for I think the most prepared. And Cody, you didn't include this because I guess this is all wrapped into the high school teacher part. But you also, not in addition to English, AP English, you also did some sort of like audio-visual media teaching. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. I did. I was an audio video production teacher. My knowledge going into that was that when I was 12, I figured out how to program the VCR. And so really, that's all you have to do in the state of Texas to be able to teach audio and video production. So I know a couple things. I think I'm framed here in the rule of thirds. I'm trying to block everything out well. So trying to exercise some best practices.
Cody, you are perfect. I would imagine that being a musician, though, would have like informed a little bit of that, right? But I didn't know anything about video. Yeah, I didn't know anything about video before I started doing all this nonsense. So I'm sure you knew a lot more than me.
Well, and the true part of that story was that we started off. Some students came to me and said, "Would you like to do an open mic night at the high school? Like, help us host this open mic night because we got a bunch of
That's
frustrated guitar players that
fun.
want to play somewhere." Yeah, so we started doing that, and then my principal at the time came to me and said, "Would you like to turn that into a class of some sort?" So that was where my audio video production career was born.
So, Cody, I want to get into our topic of the evening, and I probably after I saw the feedback on Facebook when I made the call out for folks that knew stuff about video games and specifically video game music, I realized suddenly that this topic is a lot more serious than I had anticipated. And so I tried to do as much research as I could, but I'm going to ask you, or either that or do a real quick Google search, just as a trivia matter. But the title of the show is a play on a meme. All your bases are belong to us. And just for clarity's sake, I just wanted to explain that for the anti-meme crowd, and identify the video game that comes from, which is
Zero
Zero
Wing.
Wing. Okay.
Yeah,
So, did
yeah.
you know that, or did you have to Google, or is that just something that people know who
So
do
okay,
video
so I
games?
I know the meme and like the half like cyborg face of all your base are belong to us. Ha 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 ha. But
Yeah.
yeah, zero wing wouldn't have come up automatically for me.
Right. Okay. Well, I just wanted to clear that up. I didn't. I was originally going to call the show Bleep Bloop, but I've since discovered that this music, this music that I've been listening to, is much more serious and much more involved than 8-bit music, and that's all the experience that I have. And it's funny, I you had such great enthusiasm for the topic, and you were like really up for it. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. Like, Cody's a teacher, like he would be great. He'd be great at this. And then I started to remember all the experiences that I've had with you around video games. There was the Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and then there was another time that I think you just gotten back from South Korea, and you were living in Austin. I think you were teaching at that point,
Right.
and you had a video game that I had wanted to play called, and I forgot what it was, but I
It
remember
was that was Gears of War.
that's right. That's right. It was Gears
Did
of
you,
War.
do you- I was thinking about this. Do you remember why you wanted to play it?
Yes, I do, because the commercial had the Mad World song, the really beautiful, wonderful, and it
Yeah.
just it looked like a sci-fi movie to me. And I was used to seeing video games that look that spectacular, like the Final Fantasy kind of stuff. But I guess I'd never seen like a war game, or like a science fiction kind of game, like first person shooter kind of thing that looked like that and had those visuals. And I had to be honest with you, Cody. First of all, you probably remember this. I was awful at it, and second, it wasn't any fun at all because I was so bad at it, and it was so complicated. I think that was the night that my like interest in video games died, because there was like, first of all, the controller. I forgot what system it was on, but the controller had 18 buttons, some bumpers, some like joysticks and toggles, and one like controlled the head, one controlled like switching guns, one controlled the torso, like moving around. And it's just like, it's too much. And I guess I'm not smart enough, or I don't know what it is, but I I think that was the end of it for me. But I mean, I don't. I think I've had a renewed kind of sense of it because of doing this. So it's all come full circle. But is do you even beat games anymore? Did you ever beat that game? Is that a thing
Oh
people
yeah,
do?
yeah. Well, that's kind of a thing that I love about where games are now is there's this tension in the gaming community about like both difficulty and how a game should be like kind of a badge of honor if you beat something like Dark Souls and the From Software games are some of my favorite games, but they are meant to be hard and they do not have an easy mode.
Right.
And then on the other hand, this other game that I'm really loving with some fantastic music we'll talk about later, Hades. Hades is meant to be a really difficult game, but the designers want you to see the story that they worked so hard on, that if you want to turn on, quote, God mode, you can. And every time you die and start back over, you have, you're like 3% stronger. So it's like the designers want you to see the end of the game so much that every time you don't make it, they make it easier for you. And I think that's awesome. It's
Interesting.
a different kind of world, right?
Interesting, and I think that that kind of goes towards how video games have changed, which is it's more of like a storytelling, almost like a cinematic kind of experience.
Definitely.
A big long story, and I can't wait to dive in to the music into the games because I have lots of questions for you. So I put out a request for you because I think I admitted to you that I was kind of useless about all this, in terms of knowing having any information. I was going to talk about 8-bit music originally, and then,
I do love
after
8-bit music.
right, and then after a revelation, I understood that conversation wasn't going to be sufficient. Clint Buck is also saying Hollis sounds 70 years old, but I am relating hard to this too many buttons talk. Yeah. Yeah. So but the music, I think the music is another thing as well. It's like I'm used to crappy music that didn't really mean anything, and I tried to think about songs I actually remembered, and I was so surprised that you had a playlist just ready to go. You probably could have provided like 100 songs, and
Well,
I shortened you down to 5, and you gave me like 8, which were 3 were like there's the same song but different versions, and it's just there's just so much, and it's like a whole like a whole other it's a whole other world of art that I need to appreciate, and I'm so glad you're here to kind of school me up. So here's how I'd like to do this. First of all, if I get an interesting question in the chat here, I may interrupt you. I don't know if I'm going to hold off till the end to ask you questions, but we'll see how that goes. But if you have a question for Cody or me, whatever, then feel free to ask it in the chat, and we'll get to you. Or an interesting, kind of conversation, kind of offshoot. We'll get to that. But what I'd like for you to do is, I've got these kind of sort of in order. But I'll start with whatever song that you would like to start with, and then what I'd like for you to do is, sorry about that. I've got notifications going off.
no
What
problem.
I'd like for you to do is uh, talk about the game. Just brief. Just tell us what the game is, and at what point the song comes in the game, whether it's like the main title or if it's in a pivotal scene. And tell me why the music is great, the song is great, and the whole, what the emotional context is it for it. So holler out what that first song is that you would like to look at.
Okay, well, the first song is going to be Bloody Tears from Castlevania. And so we're going to go in chronological order. And so, the task that you gave me, oh, that's beautiful. Well done. You got the trilogy art box there. Outstanding. I'm very proud of you, Hollis. So I'm going in chronological order. And the task that you gave me was like, hey, can you condense 50 years of art into like its best 10 minutes? And so like I kind of skipped Mario and Zelda. I feel like everybody knows those. You did a lovely rendition of the Mario theme song earlier. And the same guy designed all those. That was Koji Kondo. And there's a great video that I hope we'll link somewhere that's all about like what Koji Kondo stole. And not stole, he borrowed these tunes from like jazz music. There's one thing from like Steely Dan or Deep Purple that ends up in The Legend of Zelda, like note for note. It's crazy, but everybody knows those. So I
Now
wanted to
hold
talk
up,
about.
we're talking
Yeah,
about stealing. Okay, so we're gonna have to now. Let's just check that off on our note list because I want to get back to that later. But sorry to interrupt you. Just go ahead and continue with what you were saying here on
sure.
Castlevania.
Castlevania. So video game users or video game composers in the 80s are this weird combination of like programmers that have a musical background or they're musicians that learn how to code. And so it's like, if you think about it, you're not playing on a keyboard. You have to program your song. And in the 8-bit days, that's in a 5-channel mix. And that's not channels like we think about recording. That's like 5 instruments and each one has one string. And you're allowed to play one thing at a time, right? So Konami is this band, this game group in the 80s that makes these badass third-party games like Castlevania. They make Contra, they make Life Force. And so a lot of the stuff you see in the 80s and the 8-bit era is even in the graphics and everything else, it's very implied, right? It's like, here's a blob of pixels, and if you use your imagination, that's an elf, or that's a plumber, or that's a vampire, that's Dracula, right? And so the music does sort of the same thing, right? The music is trying to imitate these styles, and the musicians for this one, the composers are trying to emulate like Baroque music, but you also hear them stealing a lot of like death metal because they're going for this vampire hunter kind of theme, this Dracula thing. They're borrowing from Thriller. You can hear that in some other Castlevania tracks. And as the technology gets better, you hear the music gets better, and it sounds more like what it was intended to. So let's start with the 8-bit. There you go. You hear those arpeggios, and then that real cool like rock and roll beat. Yeah, so that gives you an idea of that one in that generation. So when the technology catches up, yeah. So
Sorry.
No, you're good. So when the technology catches up and they actually have CD drives and they can do this in a bigger way, they're able to bring in that orchestral or make it sound like, like the pipe organ. So it's got this big, dark hammer horror Dracula sound. So that's the second track on there. So that's the newer version if you want to play that one. There we go.
So I just have to interrupt here and say that Castlevania is the devil, according to my parents when I was a kid. So I was never allowed to engage in devil stuff like this. And so Cody, you should feel bad about this. But it's interesting to me. This doesn't hit me as like this wasn't like but it wasn't like a horror video game. It was more like action, and so when listening to the music now, it sounds exactly appropriate for an action video game. And I think that was one misconception that I had, is that I just kind of, or my parents thought it was like a horror video game, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and I mean, my parents were really conservative too, and there was a lot of music that I was not allowed to listen to, but they didn't know that video games were evil. And I think thanks to the Castlevania series, I mean, that's why I worship my Lord and Satan now, So I think I think your parents were right if you didn't want that in your life, but I'm glad I had it. So, yeah, so that's Castlevania, and there's a beautiful piano version of that too. Just to kind of show the versatility of this piece. So that's a gorgeous piece of music. And somebody wrote that. Yeah, in ones and zeros in 8-bit, and it's the same piece, but people take this just like they take the graphics on these things and take this 8-bit music and turn it into a full-fledged score in their head. And this is a pastime for a lot of game fans, is turning it into these really beautiful filled out pieces. So
I've heard some, I guess it's called chip tunes. Our mutual friend Matt Stewart introduced me to chip tunes, and it's pretty amazing. I'd always dreamed about like incorporating that into an album or something at some point. But I think that's so interesting what you're talking about, how the music was either done by musicians who knew a little bit about coding, or programmers who just like loved music and they were into it.
Yeah, and I think to talk about like the chiptune music, what's great is like this is so nostalgic for so many of us. You know, I'd grow up like listening to Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson with my family, but then I'd go play these video games, and like Zelda, Castlevania, Mega Man, having these soundtrack influences on me, and so those were created out of restriction. And so it's all these people trying to overcome this sound restriction and creating this really complicated stuff. And so now, in retrospect, what you have is people with all the technology and all the resources in the world restricting themselves in this sound to get that nostalgic feeling back. So there's a really interesting kind of push-pull of technology happening there.
Right. Well, let's move on to the next one here. Call it out. What are we looking at?
Okay, so next is Guile's theme from Street Fighter, right? Clint, you were a Street Fighter player. You still out there? Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I can hear it. I can hear Sonic Boom.
Right. And okay, so Guile was the kind of the GI Joe kind of guy, right? And with the crazy haircut. This doesn't show exactly. This isn't a great. Maybe we'll just solo this for just a second longer. But he's got that kind of crazy haircut there, and he's doing. I guess this is not. Is it? This wasn't. Did he have any kind of supernatural moves? Like the Haruken or anything like that, or was it just like crazy?
There was that. There was the flash kick, but okay. And this is official Street Fighter canon, coming from a middle school and current nerd. But Guile could whip his hands so quickly through his American boxing ability that he could break the sound barrier, and that is how he would throw a sonic boom out of his hands. So you're welcome for that little tidbit. Yeah,
thank you. We're gonna bring a little bit of this in here.
Sure. Now here, let me explain the meme here. The meme is that Guile's theme goes with anything. So any video in the world, right now, if I just scratch my beard, Guile's theme goes with that. Point at the screen. Guile's theme goes with that. Take a sip.
I want to try.
Guile's theme goes with that. So the joke is that Guile's theme goes with anything. Yes, that's it. Guile's theme goes with that. Guile's theme goes with that. So the reason I love this, it was turned into a meme. Clint used to play it at the Bernie HEB when it had those 2 arcade games. Yeah, I get that. The reason I wanted to share this one is because I sent you that video. I don't know if we're going to be able to watch that, of John Baptiste talking about how Guile's theme was a major musical influence on him. Do you have that?
I do not.
I sent it in the link so I can describe it a little bit. So John Baptiste does this whole deal when he is hosting Live From Here. And basically, he talks about how, as this classically trained musician who went to Juilliard, where he really learned growing up in a musical household in New Orleans, where he learned music was from imitating video games. And so he does this great bit, and we'll link it in the chat, of where he plays Guile's theme, and then he plays it as a jazz piece. He plays it as a ragtime piece, and he just goes through. He plays it as a Baroque piece, and so cool. Then this is the guy that did the music for soul. You know, I mean, like, this is one of the great jazz musicians of our time, and among his most significant influences, he counts Guile's theme from Street Fighter 2.
That's very cool. Well, I think the only thing that I have to contribute to this conversation is that as I was listening to this music and thinking about what I was going to say, and I started thinking about the thing emotionally that made me the way emotionally I reacted to this music is it made me remember playing these video games like in the 50th Street Caboose in Lubbock, Texas, with the food. It was like a special thing, and it was just like so awesome, and get the tickets and get the toys and everything, and like it was just like a very nostalgic it's all of this is just very, very nostalgic. I think a lot of this is nostalgic for me, and that's where it hits me emotionally. I think it sounds like, I mean, some of what we're talking about is like meme culture, what kind of which is like a retro look back at a lot of this. But I know that you've got some kind of modern, I say modern, but like current, like non-meme kind of thing, which I really love. Did you have anything else on Guile's theme, or can we move on to the next one?
No, we can go ahead and move on, and let's see. I've got one that is there's one from Donkey Kong that we can talk a little bit about the leap in technology that people really had to take with this one. And then there's another one that gets into kind of that psychological aspect more than the nostalgic aspect. So whichever one you want to talk about there.
Okay, well let's do the Donkey Kong, because this was a weird thing that I thought that you had included, and I wanted to get you to riff a little bit on why you included this, and we will bring this in real quick.
100%. So as this is playing, you can hear this is aquatic ambience. This song makes me laugh because it still gives my wife anxiety. She literally, we sometimes play old SNES games together, and like these water levels still creep her out. There's a video that we'll link to that explains way better than this. But so the Super Nintendo has 2 chips, right, per sound. Is one to store sound and one to program sound. And the total capacity of those chips is 64 kilobytes. And if you don't know, if that doesn't mean anything to you, the average MP3 size is 6 megabytes. So any song that you record for 3 minutes is 100 times bigger than all of the music for every single level in, every game in Donkey Kong. So this composer, David Wise, he realized that if he could get these micro fragments to overlap, and then like pitch them all together, he could do this crazy, these crazy waveforms that get this Brian Eno sound that nobody else had ever made.
And so I want to just interrupt you right there.
Yeah.
So this game is Donkey Kong Country, and
Yeah.
what year approximately did this come out?
I want to say this is 94, 95 for the Super Nintendo.
Okay, that is crazy to me. You're like, this doesn't sound this is so interesting, because this doesn't sound like dated to me. This doesn't sound like an 8-bit technology, and you're talking.
Yeah.
So elaborate a little bit more about what did you say he had? It was what did they? How did they do this?
So imagine so he can copy a waveform at a time, right? So just a micro fraction of a sound, and then he realized he could program that to happen to echo, fade in, fade out, overlap, fade in, fade out, overlap. And he could bring in these big swells like you're hearing right now. And in that way, he could design this very complicated music with just a couple of sounds and a whole lot of programming. And from what I understand, this took something like 300 hours of manpower just to program it. He knew what it should sound like, and then he had to go back and he had to plug in all these numbers. But you're right, Hollis, I think this absolutely this has no date on it, really, maybe aside from the drums. But yeah,
that's crazy to me. I didn't, I saw because I looked at, I wanted to, because I didn't know what games some of these came from, actually most of them. And so I'd look them up, and Donkey Kong Country, I looked at the graphics, it looked kind of like newer, that kind of thing. But that's, in terms of music, I thought this was like a remix or something, like what you had done with the Castlevania stuff, including the multiple I thought this was like a version of a version. But that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop you right here. Mr. Clint Buck has a question for Cody Pruitt, which is, Cody, what video game music gives you the most anxiety? The hurry-up music in Super Mario? Any water level music? Ooh, that's a great question. Cody Pruitt, what shakes you? What gives you the shakes?
Okay, so water level music is so good because it's all unsettling, right? Like all water level music at some point is still like, even if you have infinite air, it's like, yeah, but you could drown. You don't know what we're gonna do in this game. But I'll tell you, like I think the most in a very weird way, we're going to talk about a game later whose music I love, and this is a pretty recent game. This is called The Outer Wilds, and this is actually the vinyl for that soundtrack.
Okay,
it's that
I can't
good.
wait. Let's leave that for last because I really got into that. So sorry, go ahead. You're going to tell us.
Well, okay. So the game is built around, and I'll talk about the themes a little bit more, but the game is built around a 22-minute time loop. And at the end of every 22 minutes, the sun explodes. And like you're going to reset. It's kind of like Groundhog Day style, right? So and you get used to this rhythm, but a very specific song plays when you hear that your time is almost up in the loop. And it's this really strange feeling of like, oh no, or maybe I've got one more thing to do, or maybe I wanted to see one more thing before that happens. And this music plays. And a lot of times all you can really do is say, well, fuck it, like I'll do it next time. And wherever you are in this solar system, you can just look up at the sun and watch it go nova and just kind of like, burn everything in sight. And then you wake up at a campfire 2 seconds later. So yeah, it's strange. It's anxiety inducing, but it's very like the myth of Sisyphus by Camus. Like it's just like, well, shit, the boulder rolled back down the hill, and here we go again.
Right. Okay, good question. Lindsay Webb says, "I loved Donkey Kong, but this. Let's just be clear: Donkey Kong Country is different from Donkey Kong. What is it? What is it that people like about Donkey Kong? What is that? I've never gotten that. I guess like the idea of two plumbers that are brothers, like in some sort of like LSD fueled side-scrolling adventure game is a little weird as well. But I never understood the gorilla thing, and maybe you can enlighten me, help me out. See, what am I missing about Donkey Kong?
But that's heavy. That's heavy. I think it's, you know what I think it is? I think it's a gorilla wearing a tie. What's not to like? He's got opposable thumbs, and it's hard for us, but he can do it. He can wear a tie. So I think there's an appeal there that is underrated.
That's funny. All right. Do you have anything more on that?
No, I just wanted to share like just how, from a musician's perspective, how complicated that is, where really like it's one thing to be able to like suss it out on your instrument, but then to say, okay, I'm going to plug this into this technology. I'm going to program this song. I'm not going to play it. Like that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah. All right. So what else do we have here? Oh, can we do save theme?
Yeah. Okay, so a moment's peace and save theme are connected.
And I just want to say that this caused a little confusion for me, and I'll bring this up because 2 games came up for this. One was Resident Evil 4. Mm-hmm. And the other one was the title of, I guess, whatever recording that you gave for when you sent me the track list, which was Biohazard. So, explain to me what game that this is impactful. Like, first of all, does that happen a lot where they use, a company will use the same music for multiple games, and which game inspired you to put this music?
So Biohazard is the Japanese name for the Resident Evil series. So So you've seen the Japanese soundtrack is going to be called Biohazard 4, and I don't know what the deal was with the with why the name change was. But the great thing about this one is that Resident Evil, you can see that by the screenshot, is just a terrifying game. Yeah, it's stressful to play, And every Resident Evil game has this certain save music and this certain marker for your save areas. And you just know that for a second, nothing is going to try to kill you. And if you listen to it, it's not necessarily comforting, but it resolves. It's still unsettling, but psychologically, it just lets you know, hey, you can take a breath. You're going to have to go back out, but for right now, you're safe.
I feel like it's like a meditation.
It very much is. And the same is true with Dark Souls, which is the next track. Has the same psychological effect. And that next track is A Moment's Peace. And this also happens in the save areas of Dark Souls, which is notoriously a game that prides itself on being very difficult.
So, in my initial research for Dark Souls, and I didn't do a whole lot, I just was kind of trying to get myself familiar. I think I had heard of Dark Souls before, and I have to say, so let me just bring up. So, this is pretty cool imagery, right there, pretty cool visual. But the media is quite divided over Dark Souls.
Really?
We've got people asking if it's Forbes, no less, was asking, is Dark Souls just a 100-hour waste of time? All the way to...
You know what? I didn't know we were going to go over this. I didn't know you were going to attack me like this. I don't have to sit here. I don't have to go with this HollisWebb.
Okay, well, I'll give you another one. Variety said that the rebirth of classic tragedy through sublime artistry of Dark Souls. Sublime artistry, Cody Pruitt. So what is it? What is it about this? And I'm going to go ahead and get my dumb face off here and play a little music here. Where is that?
So I'm wearing a Dark Souls t-shirt, and so you can tell which camp I'm in. My wife is so sick of hearing about Dark Souls. Because this is a game that I put down the first time that I played it. I'm like, this is just stupid hard. This is just a test of how nerdy you are and how much time you want to waste getting good at something that doesn't matter. And then a student at the time told me, like, oh, you went the wrong way. Like, go the other way. I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, the game shouldn't have to tell me that. And I went back through, and I've got to fall into the sublime artistry version of it, because this game is kind of a microcosm of modern life. It is existential, nihilistic dread. You're in this land that is dying. All around you are zombies, and zombies are made by people who get infected with a disease and then don't have enough hope to go on. And once their hope is gone, they get zombified. And the implication is, if you stop playing the game, that's fine. Like, you're just going to become one of those zombies. And somebody else will finish the game for you. And there are tiny moments of hope. And the whole premise of the game is that you get a little bit further and a little bit further. And at the end of it, you are able to look back over both your physical and your technical progress, that you can see places earlier in the game, but all of a sudden, like, you used to be in an alleyway and now you're on a mountaintop, and you can look down and say, oh, I was there like 2 or 3 hours ago. Or you can go back to that alleyway and just devastate these enemies that used to kill you in one hit. And it's very enriching. It's very rewarding. And it's very punishing. And it's really hard to describe, but sublime artistry, I think, is a really good way to put it, and a very hard thing to explain about it. But
Cody, do you remember what scene exactly, or what stage of the game this visual comes from?
Okay, so what's happening right now is that character is lighting a bonfire, and the reason that I put these two themes together is that bonfire is a safe place. And one of the crappy things, or one of the punishing things about Dark Souls is, in most games, you kill a monster and you get points. And if you get enough points, you level up, right? So in Dark Souls, you kill monsters and you get those points and you can level up. But if you die, all of those points get left in a pile right where you died. And you have one chance to run back there and grab them. And if you die before that, before you get back to those experience points, they're lost. So if you beat a boss and you don't make it back to one of these bonfires, like, you don't get any reward for beating that boss.
How interesting.
Yeah, and so this is called a Souls-like. And that bonfire, when you show that and when you play this music, that to me is, it's safety, right? Like, I can feel that experience. This person has lit this bonfire, and they're able to save there, and they're able to level up there and get more powerful there. And it's also a symbol of, I made it, right? My progress is saved here.
Something that just made me think, and I didn't know what you were gonna say about all these songs and about video games, and a lot of what you've been talking about is safety and comfort, with the music selections that you picked out, and I was and then we've been talking about like anxiety inducing kind of things, and it makes me think about a question I actually asked my friend Dr. Sarah, who was on the chat earlier. I was like, why do you she's a child psychologist, and I asked her, just kind of
Sarah?
a pondering question. Why do you think people like horror movies or like roller
Mm-hmm.
coasters? Some people do, some people don't, and it's kind of born out of the same thing. It's a thrill. It's whatever. But my thought is, why would you put yourself through something that you feel like you're going to be injured or die? And then I get the same thought when you talk about like these games inducing anxiety, and then the emotional, I guess, release or like comfort of this, these the music and the certain scenes, and how the game designers like set that up. It's almost like, I don't know if I would say it's like a workout, but it's like something. It's like you're punishing yourself in some ways, and then like getting the release at another way. It's like it's the hangover before the being drunk. It's a weird thing. You nerds are
Sure.
weird.
Well, I've got a former student of mine, and current filmmaker, Grant, is in the chat there. And, Grant points out that anxiety, fear, triumph, relief, and I don't know if Grant remembers, in my AP class, a lot of times we'll study tragedy and go back to Oedipus and say, like, why on earth would the Greeks consider like this play about just the tension of having to find out or watch this guy find out that he had children with his mom and he didn't
Mm.
know it,
Mm-hmm.
and that disgust. And Aristotle talks about purgation, and catharsis. That's where we have the modern word catharsis. That for some reason we watch these horror movies or we ride these roller coasters, or for the Greeks it was these emotions of disgust, a lot of times, that kind of in a way make us feel right with the world. And I think it serves the same function psychologically as nightmares do. That, like, you have a nightmare to practice your fight or flight response, right? And so our cavemen ancestors, Tuk would dream about being confronted by a saber-toothed tiger, and then he would freeze, and the saber-toothed tiger would eat him. And Tuk would wake up and say, okay, that was great practice. Don't freeze, right? And so all of these things are meant to feel good, because we're meant to wake up from that nightmare and say, oh God, like, I'm alive and I learned something. And
Right.
I think we have a psychological response to those feelings, to say that I'm safe, I'm alive, I learned something, and in a way that we can become kind of addicted to that.
And I always fight back against, I I shouldn't slur this, but boomers who, cry that video games are escapism, because I would argue that they're anything but escapism, because I do understand that it's not, they don't make you feel good like a lot of times. I mean, you see any guy like freak out and throw a PlayStation controller across the room, like, video games don't always like make you feel good, and it's a weird thing to describe. I think I don't know anything about it, but I know that it's not all it's not euphoria. It's not euphoria all the time. And I think that's interesting that people would spend so much time, so much money, so just get very so emotionally involved in something that like you used a great word. It's punishing sometimes, and that's so interesting. And I think what you're alluding to is that maybe it's like psychological practice for other like problems in life. Maybe.
Sure. Well, and I think too what you're seeing on the boomer like escapism, the Western was escapist. And then Unforgiven or The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance came out, and all of a sudden it's art, right? Or the comic book was escapist, and then The Dark Knight wins an Oscar, and all of a sudden it's art. So there's this long tradition of like this thing that was for kids, and I'm allowed to judge it because it's not my thing. But the thing that I loved when I was a kid, it can totally be art, and you just don't understand it. And so video games now are evolving into, for the people that engage with them, legitimate, emotionally resonant art forms. And so, yeah, I think to trivialize those is to trivialize, a lot of great art that started off as a childish thing and evolved into something of real artistic consequence.
And they produce kick-ass music. So I want to thank Grant for that comment. That was an
Yeah,
excellent.
100%.
That is awesome. And also have to call out Joyce, who said, wasn't the thing about Donkey Kong that it was the first one, like a full-size machine at the bar? Joyce, I think you're correct. I think that was kind of the introduction of the Cody, you might be able to correct me on that.
So I mean, yeah, it was Nintendo's big first killer app. They had some like crappy game before that, and they said, well, we sold a bunch of these, but we need something. We need a game card that we could insert in these machines, and they would work. And it was the same guy, Miyamoto, that designed Mario, Zelda, all of these classics. And he said, well, I'm going to make a Popeye game. And he made a Popeye game with Olive Oil getting kidnapped by Bluto, and Popeye happened to save her. And Nintendo's like, and so then the Popeye movie with Robin Williams, you remember, a classic,
right,
came out, and they said, we're going to make our own Popeye game because this thing is going to just crush it at the box office. So Nintendo's like, well, what's free? Let's do a King Kong ripoff. And so that King Kong ripoff gave us Donkey Kong and Mario and became a huge hit. And the Popeye game that was just the ripoff of that ended up bombing. It sucked, even though it was pretty much the same premise. So,
and
Grant's got a great point. We want to bring this up. Okay. We got to stop here. Okay, so Grant's talking about a game, and there's a This American Life episode about it, and the game is called This Dragon Cancer, or it might be that.
Right, I know about this game.
You know about this? Okay.
The developer, his daughter got cancer, right? She was dealing with cancer, and he wrote this game, built this game about the whole process, and it's awful. It's a terror, like. Everything's bad, like every bad thing that happens to you, there's zero escapism. This is what it is. Like you are a character that plays, a dad. I think do you play the dad, or do you actually play the person who has cancer?
So I think it's a series of scenes, and to the best of my knowledge, it is like a point and click adventure where at one point, like, the daughter's going through chemotherapy and she's crying, and there's nothing you can do to stop her crying. So this typical video game functionality, and it's hard for me to talk about being a father now. But this is coming from a real human being's experience, and the video game is the catharsis for that art. And I think the last scene of that game is essentially her in this digital heaven that he's designed. and you can stay there for as long as you want. Basically just watching her, and he incorporates these real recordings of her at the beach. Dang it! Oof, woof, yeah. So,
Wow.
Just that trivial escapism.
Can you
That
tell
is
me what
really
what
bringing me to tears.
platforms what platforms
I
is
want to
that
say that
available
that's a
on?
PC game.
Okay.
And Grant, have you played that? Because I heard about it, and it was on my list just to explore, because I like looking at games that are treated like that as artwork. And I don't know if I can. I don't know if I could take that right now. I don't know if I could take the
Right.
that heaviness.
Well, I don't want to get too far afield from what we're doing. And the last one that we've got is something I'm really interested in, which is the let's see, it's the Outer Wilds.
Oh my
And
God.
this has some amazing. This is an amazing visual. This is art unlike I've seen for any sort of game, and music unlike I've heard for any sort of game. I've never heard. This is folk music.
Yeah. Oh, so, gosh, I cannot talk about how much I love Outer Wilds, and I actually found it because the soundtrack was recommended to me first. And so Outer Wilds, let me see what I wrote. Here's a description. Cottage core space exploration with a Groundhog Day loop. Okay. So you're an alien in another solar system, and you explore your solar system like a wooden lunar lander. And you've got to try to figure out why the sun is exploding every 23 minutes and starting you back at the loop. And there's this amazing soundtrack. It's like if Rednecks had NASA. And so I love it. I can't say how cool I think this art style is. And Andrew Farrow is the guy that does the music. So if you'll play the next one, I love what this actually does in the game.
Dial it up here. Oh no, that's not it.
Oh, that's a different new groove. Okay, so you hear that theme, and then you'll hear a new instrument come in here in a second. You hear a whistle, you hear an accordion. So the way that you explore the solar system is that you have this scope, and you can look out into space, and you can find other astronauts based on the instrument they're playing. And then you can go fly to them and try to find them and learn about the planet that they're on and what's happening there. And these instruments don't all come together until the very end of the game, after you've played this for quite a few hours, and you realize they've all been playing different parts to the same song. And you bring them all together kind of at the end of the universe. You're in the big crunch waiting for the next big bang. And it's all brought together by all of these explorers playing this different music. And it just kind of escalates and escalates and escalates. And together, spoiler alert here for a beautiful game, the music that you make kind of recreates the universe. And you can hear it building in there. It's really beautiful.
I don't think I've ever heard whistling in a video game music, like in video game music.
I love the way that thing builds. And like I said, I was over the moon. Like I tweeted at Andrew Farrow. I said, "Hey, when is it coming out on vinyl?" Because I will buy the credit card twice. And I did. And what I love the artwork on this. And let's see, it's got this really cool like inset where it's all kind of hand drawn. And then he actually included guitar tablature on the inset and harmonica tablature. So you can play along with the musicians there, basically in this sketch. So
that's a good get.
Isn't that a good get? Yeah, I'm very, very happy about that album.
That is very cool, Cody Pruitt. Man, what a great list. I gave you such a crazy challenge. I know these top five, whatever these kind of things are awful because you want to have a much better, you want to have a much deeper conversation about something that you love, that you get into. But that was incredible. My only regret is that we tried to plan like a last minute kind of thing where we were going to play a game against each other, and we didn't get a chance to do that, which is unfortunate. So maybe we'll have to try to do that another time.
We'll have to we'll
Maybe
have to we'll have to do a video game live stream. People do it all the time. I
that
hear. Hey
is
man,
true.
AOC does it.
That's
Okay, we can
true.
do it.
That is true. I do want to respond to a couple of things
Sure.
before we move on here. Now, let's see.
Clint Buck had a great question earlier that I
Okay.
really have to think about the video game. He wishes they would have let me score.
Right. Right. Okay. So what kind of video game, I mean, besides like the This Dragon Cancer where you don't score, but like what other kind of maybe more popular, like a mainstream game, would you not have any kind of scoring element that you would like one?
Well, I mean, man, there's so many anymore because it's such an integral part of the experience, and you find like really top tier musicians. Like for example, Red Dead Redemption 2 was a pretty big deal, a AAA game produced by Rockstar Studios, and they wrote all the songs for it, but they didn't perform it all, and they actually got Willie Nelson. And I can't imagine the
Really?
nerve to call Willie Nelson and say, "Hey, do you want to sing on our
a
video
video
game?"
a video game.
A video game. And Willie Nelson says, "Yes. What song do you want me to do?" And they say, "Oh, none of yours, Willie Nelson, greatest songwriter in the history of country music. We have one for you." And Willie Nelson is cool enough to say, like, "You bet, I will do that." So I love that. Even the AAA games, some really fundamental, some basic games. I will say, since Clint put me on the spot there, Hollis, I showed you Broforce. I thought that was a game we could play together. It
Yes.
is this 80s
It's
action movie homage. It's absurd. I think it could use better music. I think it needs more metal. I would love to see some shredding Team America music behind that. So Clint, if I had
that's
to replace any game soundtrack, I would go with that.
that's kind of funny that you say that because they sell the soundtrack too on Steam, which I never
Oh,
had
interesting.
Steam before until today, and so I downloaded Steam because Cody and I were going to try to get this going last minute to play a game against each other or with each other or whatever and live stream it. But I noticed that they were selling the soundtrack, and I thought that was like so cool. But this is a big business. Like this is
Oh yeah.
multifaceted. I mean, it's like the movie business. It's so interesting to me. I'm so appreciative by how much I've learned in the last week or so, like getting into this kind of stuff.
So Grant, I've got to give Grant a shout out. He talked about scoring Doom, and Doom, the artistic director of Doom, actually put out an all call that was anonymous of male choral voices, and that was in Austin. But it was right at the end of the pandemic. So in the new
Huh.
Doom movie, the chorus of hell is a bunch of dudes in Austin
Oh, that's crazy.
singing a death metal chorus. I'll have to find that and pass it along. But that was a good one.
How interesting. Well, Cody, I'm blown away. This is more than I'd ever hoped for. I feel like there's no way for me to really prepare for this discussion in any meaningful way because there's so much, and the history of video games is not a long history so far, but there's just so much going on with it, and the music clearly is, and I'm sure anybody out there that's watching and is interested in this kind of thing could probably rattle off 100 other musical moments in video games that are meaningful to them. So I appreciate you joining me today and sharing me all this great music and the games as well. It was fun talking about the games. One thing I will ask of you, and I don't know if you're ready to do that yet. I've been asking everybody that joins me, because this is a musical, kind of show, that you play a song. So do you have a song prepared for us, and are you set up to go?
I'm happy to do that. Do we want to do something a little sentimental or a little funky?
I'm kind of feeling sentimental, because I'm kind of got this this kind of feeling about video games that I hadn't had before, and we've got we just had the really nice Outer Wilds music. So why don't you give us something sweet?
I'll do that. And okay, so
this is I'm gonna say goodbye to you, and this will be your goodbye, because this will be your goodbye song. So I just want to thank you so much, and it's just so great having someone like you to come and teach us like a teacher would, and it's so interesting and wonderful, and gives us something to think about, and it's just great. I appreciate you, Cody.
Hey, Hollis, I had so much fun preparing for this, and I've had such a blast talking with you. You saw me geek out when you put this out on Facebook, where I was bullying other people out of being able to be the person to have this conversation with you. So yeah, it means a lot to me.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready, Cody?
Yeah, I just want to say this is a brand new tune. I have never played this in public. It's been in the works for a long time, but I do want to give a shout out to Rigel Thurston, who has a group called 100 Days of Songwriting. He's an awesome musician. And I know Hollis is talking about musical output in the future, and this group has really, really helped me get some songs done. So I want to shout him out for that.
Yeah, I'll mention Rigel as well. It's something I've been interested in. I keep up with because I follow them on Facebook. But 100 Days of Songwriting, and are they in it now, or they have done? Where are they in their cycle with that?
So we are just starting the cycle. He did a really cool thing, which was an EP challenge where you tried to record 3 songs in 3 weeks. And that was a really fun challenge. Snowpocalypse in Texas, whatever you want to call it, happened, and I didn't get as much done on that. But we just started that songwriting cycle. But it's productivity for anything, whatever you want to do as a songwriter, and it's just a really super friendly group of human beings that kind of just cheer the fact that you're doing something every day and helping you make a habit. So it's been really, really meaningful for me.
Okay, well, what I think I'm going to remember to do is I'm going to post 3 links when I do this, post this on YouTube. Is I'm going to post the link to the John Batiste, and I'm going to post the link to 100 Days of Songwriting, and I can't remember if there was anything else, but maybe there might be something else.
I'll send you a list.
Yeah, okay. Or actually, I'll send. I'll post the link to your Spotify playlist. That was the one.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah, that'll be great.
Well, Cody, why don't you tell us what you're going to be playing for us?
Okay, so this is a song called "Should Be You," and so I found that a lot of my songs are things that I kind of want to tell my students that is outside of the curriculum, and a lot of times they make their way into song form. So this is one of those songs.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cody Pruitt on Live from the Studio.
Someone somewhere's got to do the thing you want to do, and it could be you. It should be you. If they try to say it's not, your face remind them who they're talking to. They're talking to you. If anyone ever deserved to be happy, if anyone ever deserved to be satisfied, then you belong with a place at the table and live the kind of life that'll make you sad to die. Somewhere someone sad about the thing they never did when they were a kid. We're all just kids. Sacrifice ain't noble if it's only an excuse to just stay hid. Wish you did. If anyone ever deserved to be happy, if anyone ever deserved to be satisfied, you belong with a place at the table to live the kind of life that'll make you sad to die. You know, it ain't being selfish or asking too much for peace of mind. If you're being kind, 'cause no one can want your happiness or give you as much as you might find on your own time. People might start to talk about what's gotten into you like they always do. Don't let that talk get through, 'cause a future full of money ain't worth a present that has no love inside, 'cause it's just a ride. If anyone ever deserved to be happy, if anyone ever deserved to be satisfied, then you have earned a place at the table to live the kind of life that'll make you sad to die. I hope you're sad to die.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you, everybody.
That
Have a great night.
is Cody Pruitt. Man, that guy, that was just great. I want to thank Cody Pruitt for being my guest, my super special guest this evening for HollisWebb live from the studio. Always like learning things, and something that I had talked about. I don't know if I'd written it somewhere, but I want to talk about every place that music exists, and video games and movies are a place that music exists, and I want to explore that. And Cody was great at kind of taking us through some of that. I want to thank him again. This is gonna be my last song. We do the same song every night. And when we do this show, join us on March 26th. We'll have Daniel Markham as our special guest, and really excited about that. Again, donate if you feel like contributing to our little endeavor. I don't know how much of these we're going to keep on doing. We'll probably do them in the future, but if we're able to start doing gigs, then I think we're going to concentrate on that, because that's what we want to do. We want to be close to people, and we want to you want to be in the same room as the music, I think, most of the time. And this is like fun, like I say, and we'll keep this going as long as you guys, want us to. So I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. This was, I think, just a great this was really, really fun. So thank you all again. Lock up the cellar, turn out the lights. It's been a long, long day. Hard at work in the laboratory, testing new ways to procrastinate. Measuring frequency and depth, is there a method to the rate of your speed? How can you tell the very moment when a want is suddenly a relief? Science can't explain the beating of my heart when I see your face. It can't duplicate the rush of motion in my gait when I see you again. 'Cause I got this disease, it makes me weak in my knees. Won't you come rescue me? Science can't explain the beating of my heart when I see your face. It can't duplicate the rush of motion in my gait when I see you again. 'Cause I got this disease, it makes me weak in my knees. Won't you come rescue me? Okay.